Welcome back to Charity Farms. My name is Teresa, but you can call me T. Today we're going to talk about aquaponics. What is aquaponics? Roughly, aquaponics is a method where you actually have the fish in a container and that water is being filtered into another container or area or garden or tubing that have seeds and plants, and the fish feces or the fish emulsion is actually fertilizing the seeds and the roots, and that's what it needs. And ideally, as it keeps going, it goes back into the fish container where the fish are at. And once that actually goes back into the container, the roots actually start to clean out that water from the fish, so it goes back into the fish water and it actually cleans out their fish, so it's not, or their container, so it's not so disgusting, shall we say. It's a intricate process that is really definitely divine driven. You can see how God's intricate design really works because that's how he does it in the ocean and ponds and in lakes. You have the fish, they eat off of the insects that actually feed off of those plants. Some of them even eat the plants because they also do that too. Their waste goes back into the roots, and those are good nutrients for that plant, soil, whatever you need to actually help that plant grow. That plant takes all that waste for themselves for those nutrients, which then processes clean water. This is definitely a God design system. It's very intricate, which might explain why it's very difficult to find aquaponics showing you how you make it, how you maintain it. There's a lot of videos out there that describe, here's my aquaponics, this is what I do, it goes into here and it goes into this garden, it feeds this and it does that, and this is how I have this abundance. But nobody truly explains how did they make their system work. And a lot of things about aquaponics, the things I've read, or not that I've read, but the things I've seen on YouTube, talk about wanting a bell siphon. So here in Phoenix, Arizona, we actually have an individual who actually has an aquaponics in his backyard. It's called Southwest Aquaponics and Fish Hatchery. And I did actually speak with this individual, and he showed me what he does. He just answered a lot of my questions. A lot of the questions that I had was, what happens if you can't find a bell siphon? Because everything I've seen on YouTube talks about a bell siphon. I thought that you needed a bell siphon in order to keep your plants from receiving root rot, but that's not true. Your waters are already flowing. You're receiving oxygen. It's the same thing with the fish. The reason why you have a filter in the fish tank and why the water's falling down is because that is providing air for fish. Fish still need water. That's the same concept that you're doing for aquaponics. You're taking the water out of the normal fish tank and you're bringing it into another system and it's draining down. That's providing air. Now it gets a little bit more intricate the further down we go, but right now we're just beginners, so we're going to start very slow. And that, since that provides air, you don't need a bell siphon because the air is already flowing for you, so you won't receive root rot. You'll just keep letting the system go and it will give you the air. One thing I've also noticed too with this is it's recommended that you get worms for your system, and the reason why it's recommended is because the poopies don't really break down as easily for the roots. The clay media will actually hold it, and that's actually something that actually helps you clean out the tank as well. But it's not really breaking it down with how many plants you're going to have in your container for this. The worms to actually help you eat the fish poopies. They'll process it a lot better for those plants. But you have to be careful because fish eat worms. They love worms. So in order to keep your worms protected, you have to make sure that your drainage has some kind of cover to keep them from not falling in. I haven't gotten to that part yet. I'm still, full disclosure, I was actually in the process of getting my worms ready. However, my pump died. I have to go get another pump. I will discuss everything that you need while we're walking through this video because it's very delicate and very intricate. There's nobody in YouTube that really shows how to design this, how to make this. I've already spent hundreds of dollars trying to get a few systems up and running. The one that I have now is a system that I know worked previous, but unfortunately I did something wrong to it and I don't know what it was, so I couldn't fix it. So now I have to learn again, but because it wasn't recorded and I didn't know what I did, it was luck of the draw that made it happen. And I believe that was God's design too, because you learn through your mistakes. And if I don't understand how it happened and there's nobody there to explain it to me, how am I going to learn? I am going to be your guinea pig, because I learn better through people who show me. Just nobody's showing me. You have videos out there that show you how to make a bell siphon, how you do other things, but they don't really talk about it step by step. That's what this video is going to do. This is the very first beginner guide to aquaponics. Will I make mistakes? Absolutely. I'm learning. I gotta give myself grace, but I'm hoping that while I'm learning, I can also teach you what I'm learning. I hope you enjoy this video, this introduction to aquaponics. So as I'm discussing aquaponics, the one thing you need to keep in mind as I'm teaching you what I know is I have a 75-gallon fish tank that I'm working with. And because of this, there's a couple of things that you need to understand. I do need a water pump, but to get the proper water pump, you need a water pump that will process double the amount of gallons that you have per hour. So since I have a 75-gallon fish tank, I need to make sure that I have a pump that processes 150 gallons of water per hour. The further they get submerged into the water, the slower the pump is. So I have to make sure that under 4 feet of water, because that's how deep my tank will be, it will be able to pump 150 gallons of water per hour. So if you're going to buy a pump that says it's 75 to 150 gallons of water per hour, but you know that your pump is going to go down 4 feet, then most likely it will be 75 gallons per hour. You need to go the next level up. The other thing that it has is there's a glass beam in the center of my fish tank, and that will actually be my beam support for my container. If you don't have that, you can use wood beams. Just make sure that there's 2 of them so that you can balance out the weight equally, because remember, water will put more pressure on your tank. If you're only buying one pump, you need to have your aquaponics container above your fish tank. If you want it below the fish tank, you need to get more pumps because you have to bring the water back into the fish tank somehow. That is a little bit more complex. Therefore, we're only going to deal with one water pump with it going into a container above the fish tank. The more advanced we get, the further we'll go, and we'll learn as we go. My fish tank from front to back measures 17.5 inches, and then from the left to the mid-center where the glass piece is, it's about 20.5 inches. So the container that I need has to be able to fit and rest on that, because I'm not going to get beams to go into that at the moment. The other things that I need when I go to the store, to Lowe's or to a hardware store or Ace or wherever you go to get this stuff, is understand what you need to get. One is definitely, like I said, if you have a 20-gallon tank, you need a water pump that will pump 40 gallons per hour. It's okay if it pumps out 80 hours per hour. It needs to have at least double the amount. The other thing that you're going to need is a hose that will fit the water pump. Ideally, what you want to do is when you go to the hardware store and you get your water pump, look at what type of hose it requires and get that hose at that time. The bigger the hose, the faster the water will process through. But you want to make sure that your water pump will support the size and diameter of the water hose that you get, or the tube. So everything that you see on this screen is stuff that will fit what I've gotten for my tank. So I have 1.5 inch hose to fit on the pump. The pump does process 150 gallons per hour being submerged 4 feet down. The container to hold the water and create a water flow that will be, the container I got was actually, the base is 16.25 by 24 inches. Remember, I have a lip on my fish tank, and that's why I was able to get a little less than 17.5. This will also contain, or this is big enough for me to actually put 2 containers in, because what I need are containers that will hold not only the plants, but clay media that will be used for it, and way where the worms can crawl around. Worms need air too, so as long as the water's flowing in, you'll be fine. The reason why you want why you want a separate container that is placed inside the original container is because clay media floats, and if you don't have something that will contain that clay media, it will clog up your drainage pipe that you have created. Unless you put, there's another way around it. You can actually get another PVC pipe and put small holes all over it and a cap, and that way it can still flow through. I prefer just being able to see what's happening. That's why I did it the way I did it. The other thing you'll need are, I got 3-4 inch PVC pipes to create the flow back into my fish tank, which you'll see. I have a 1/2 inch PVC that has a thread at the very end. This is going to be easy for me to screw in the very bottom and to make sure that it has a nice tight seal to it, along with a gasket. I got a gasket that fits on this PVC to ensure that there will be no leaks, because this will be on the bottom for the drainage. Let's see. I have 1.5 inch PVC pipe that will allow the water to process through at a certain height. Once you actually put your plug in, you'll want to get another PVC pipe to stand in as tall as you want it to be, so that the water will actually rise up and at least water your plants, but you don't want it to overflow. So that's what's actually, the PVC will actually allow it to go up and then process back down. I have a 2 inch PVC pipe that will hose the water pump hose so it doesn't fall out or move or wiggle. As I've seen in the past, my water pump hose likes to go up or spray. So this is what I'm using to keep it intact, but I also want to make it where I can easily pull it out so I can clean it when I need to. Because I'm working with PVC, I need a PVC cutter, a Dremel. I also need the other thing that you'll also need is PVC drill bit for the sizes that you're working with. For me, I need 1.5 inches, 3/4. I need a whole kit. Then I need something to actually help keep my baskets that will hold my sponges afloat, so they don't fall over in the clay media. So what I'm using is styrofoam. I found something at Dollar Tree that will actually do that, and I just cut it into the circles that I need. Sponges for aquaponics. This one's a tricky one. You actually do want to get sponges for the size baskets that you actually have. And the reason why you want the ones for aquaponics or hydroponics is because there's no chemicals in them. I already tried thinking ahead when I first started the whole process. When I first started, I was finding ways to make it more convenient and easier, because I wanted to show you guys how to do this, but I had to make sure it worked. So I figured, well, why not go to the dollar store and get sponges there and use those instead? I did. I got the sponges. I cut them up. I put the seeds in there. I did everything that I needed to do. The next morning, my fish were dead. I had to research to find out what happened and why they died. And it turns out that sponges have a chemical in them that actually hurt and kill your fish. That's why it's very, very important that you use sponges for aquaponics or hydroponics. Now, the other thing that you can do is you can grow loofahs and make your own sponges, because you know there's no chemicals in those. That's actually a fruit, and fish can eat that. Therefore, a loofah sponge is fine, but you have to grow it. Until then, you can buy them on Amazon or a hydroponic store if you have one near you. The other thing that you're going to need are river rocks and or clay pebbles. River rocks are a little bit more expensive, but you want the river rocks because You will add worms into your media or into your container later down the road. So you want to make sure they are river rocks so they do not cut the worm open. The clay pebbles actually float at the top and it collects the fish feces, and this is what the worms can eat off of. When you don't have worms and you have a different system, which gets more complex, these are microorganisms that will come and eat that. We're not there yet. We're only at a indoor level in the house, just beginning. So red wigglers are going to be our process for that part. This is my pump, my aquaponics pump. This is actually for it's 150 gallons, I believe, because I need to be able to pump, I think it's actually more than that. I think it's 350 gallons. And the reason why is you want to pump out double the amount of gallons that you have. So if you have a 10-gallon tank, you want to pump out 20 gallons. If you have a 50-gallon, you want to pump out 100 gallons. I have a 75-gallon. So I want to pump out 150 gallons per hour. But the way this works, and it explains it, is that once you put it in, the taller your tank is to get up to where it's going to go, the less pressure it's going to actually give you. So that's why we got the 350, so we can actually hit the 150 that I actually need. So this, I've already put the adjustments on. This will control how much water I want to go. This is the hose that we have, and we are going to attach it to that. The first thing I am doing is creating holes in my 2 containers that will house my plants and my media. I need to make sure that my water gets in, but has a way to escape if it gets too high. The 2 containers that I have are 13 3/4 by 8 1/8 inch. I have a 3/4 inch pipe that has a male thread for a female 3/4 inch pipe. I could only find an elbow with my required threads, so I cut a small 1/2 inch pipe to fit into 2 ends of an elbow so that it created a direct flow down for my drainage. I got styrofoam plates to house my baskets. The styrofoam plates will keep my baskets from tipping over. I trace my basket size and use a utility knife to cut. I have my container that will house my 2 containers and will be the primary container that receives and drains water, creating the air and water flow that is needed. I am placing painter's tape on both sides of where I'm drilling. This will prevent splits from the plastic container. I am using a PVC drill bit to cut. If you do not have a PVC drill bit, you can use a wood burner or a soldering gun, but make sure the area is well ventilated. The main container needs 3 holes, the bottom of where the drainage will be, and 2 on the side where I will place a 2-inch PVC pipe through that will hold my water pump hose in place. In my 2-inch PVC pipe, I am placing a 4-inch hole where the water pump hose will come out of. This will ensure that the water goes directly into the container. On my fish tank to the right, I have a plant light that has a timer and a clip. These lights will also give the fish light that they need. I have the water hose going into the 2-inch pipe so that it will remain in place and drain into the container. I have a 3/4 inch pipe cut 2 inches high to allow only 2 inches of water to be in the container at any given time. I have ensured that my baskets will not tip over once I add my media. Once you receive your river rocks and/or clay media, run it through water until clear, then place it in the proper container. You want to have your clay media starting to clean your fish tank before you plant seeds. Typically, this takes about 24 to 48 hours.
Because I'm using aquaponics as a form of seed starting right now, it is time for me to transplant a few flowers that have grown substantially. First, I need to prepare my soil. I am mixing raised bed soil, because it is what I have on hand, with peat moss to help the soil retain water. You can also use coconut coir if you would prefer. I am breaking up my peat moss to ensure no clumps. I am mixing in vermiculture, which will add nutrient-rich organic fertilizer and a conditioner. After that, I'm adding perlite. This will aerate the soil. Then I mix everything. I find it easier to do this in sections. My mix quantity is 60% soil, 30% peat moss, 5% perlite, and 5% vermiculture. The sponges are transplanted with the plant. This prevents the plant from going into shock and/or losing roots. If a plant needs support, I place a wooden dowel that I got in the craft section at Walmart. I label the plants with green frog tape and place it on the container. For the baskets that got transplanted, I can now start another seed. I place my sponge in the container, write on green frog tape what it is, and place that on the styrofoam cutout. Then I place my seeds and put them back into the aquaponics system. I hope you enjoyed this video of aquaponics. I hope that you've learned some things about aquaponics and that you feel more confident going into aquaponics if this is where you want to go. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, I bless you. Bye.